Here we are again. Yet again, another or a different location.
Ish.
Well, maybe a little bit different sound than previously. I have to tell you, when you're editing these things, it's a lot more than I thought.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that do just like a one take and it is what it is. I can't do that. Like I just paused right there, so I'm gonna have to go and edit that. I'm working on our last one. It is. I'm already two hours into it, and I've only gone 10 minutes.
Are you trying to sultry up my voice?
No, it's weird. Like when you're just having normal conversation, you don't really pay attention. But when you go back and you're listening and watching whatever the track, the visual track, you'll see these long lines, which means there's a gap. And then I've started to notice a certain, gosh, I don't even know what you would call it. The way that the voice audio looks on the track, I can tell, oh, we stumbled there, or we were doing like right there.
Yeah.
It is a certain signature block. And so now I have to go and cut those things out, and because I can't just leave it in there.
That's the OCD.
OCD. So
Yeah.
I need to be more focused on being a better orator so I don't have to spend as much time cleaning up because it's a lot of work. Anyway, okay.
know.
So here we are in a different-ish place. Same old, same old. So what have you been up to, Gene?
Since I got back from ORP, from the track, I have done nothing car related other than looking for parts. As you found out in episode 4, I went. I did an excursion.
Little off-road excursion.
Off-road excursion,
Yep.
yes. Which I've watched that video more than a few times now, and just to see what I did wrong, so I don't do it again next time, because I want to be better.
On the wrong side of the...
Essentially on the wrong side. If you're on driver's right and you have to take a right, don't be on driver's right. That's just how that works. But getting the parts has proven to be interesting because the places I would normally go to, they wouldn't even let me order them. So then I went to the dealer I bought the car from, and they said, yeah, we'll let you order it, but we can't ship it to you. We have to install it for you. Like, I'm in Seattle, right?
They have to install it. They would...
Well,
That's their default?
That's their default stance, which I understand. That's their standard corporate policy. So I reached out to the GM, and he took care of it. Within like 30 minutes, they called me up, and they said, we'll take care of it. We'll get it on order, get you the correct information. We'll get Cadillac to expedite it for you, which is awesome. And then another 30 minutes later, he called me back and said, you want some good news? I said, yes, I would love good news. He said, we have one in stock. So what are the odds of that? Let's validate the part number, please. And
so they never checked before?
No, they didn't until they actually put it in the system to place the actual order itself.
Okay.
And then they said, yeah, we actually have one in the body shop. So they didn't have one that was broken or that was taken off, that was kind of used, which I would have taken that too.
Yeah.
They had a brand new one. So I ended up paying about $600 with freight. But if I would have waited for the other one to come in sometime mid-May, late May, I would have paid $325 plus another $80 in freight. I'm okay with that because I've got all the other parts. So
because you want it now.
I don't want to wait because I want my baby to look good again. I got track day, May 17th, man. It's got to be ready.
You could run it without it.
I do not want to. Yes, I could. I do not want to. It looks like it's got buck teeth.
I know, but then
It's
it
so
could
weird
kind of
looking.
match what mine looked like when I went back and looked at the videos.
It's true.
I'm like, it's weird. Like when you see it in person, it's like, yeah, it's not. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look great, but it's not that bad because I'm at the track and I'm trying to protect it.
Yeah.
But man, when I was watching those videos, I was like, that thing is ugly. And then like the pictures, the pictures they took of your vehicle.
Oh, yes.
And they posted them.
Oh, I saw those.
I'm scrolling down. I'm like, where's my car? I'm like, oh my gosh, my car is...
You will never do that again, will you?
I won't say never. I'm actively going to try to make sure that I have PPF installed so I don't have to worry about it. I just haven't got around to doing it yet. So I was going to do it today and I haven't had a chance. I want to order a roll of PPF so I can take a crack at it. So I can understand why you would want to have it. You're paying a premium, I guess, to get it sooner. But
Yes.
yeah,
But we can put the carbon fiber splitter back on, and I was able to push the piece back in. So everything now, if you look at it now, it sits way better than it did when you last saw it. So it looks, if you get down and look at it, which nobody's going to do, it looks a little bit messy. You can see where there's stuff breaking, but if you look back from afar, you don't even notice it. So I'm going to plop that thing back up there, but I want to glue that one piece that I broken. I'm going to put a little more structural rigidity to it before I put the piece on.
So you're going to leave the broken splitter on?
No. I have the spare splitter.
Yeah, no, but I thought you meant you were going to put the broken one back on.
No.
Okay.
No.
I was like, wow, that thing didn't look that good.
No. When I took it off, that thing folded in half. It was held together by PPF. So note to self, when you put splitters on your car and you go into the track, put PPF on the splitter. It'll hold it together.
Yeah.
It held it together for the track day and for the 4.5 to 5 hour drive
Yeah,
home.
drive back.
And when I pulled it off, I took all the bolts out. As soon as it dropped, the thing went. It was under tension. It just wanted to break.
So are you going to try to put it back together and hang up, or are you going to throw it away?
No, I'm gonna throw it away.
Yeah.
I thought about sending it out to a guy and see if they would fix it.
To repair it?
Yeah, but it's so broken. There's no point. The reality is, what would I pay? $500-$600 or so to have it fixed? I can just call Tap Out and get one of theirs.
Yeah.
And I'll get a new one if I need to.
So you got all the parts
Yep. Well, I
on
got
the
my
way,
order.
and then you got to get it installed.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all I've done.
Yeah, we haven't had much time to do a whole lot. I've done a thing. I went out to another track day, and man, it's been
So Wednesday or yesterday?
that was Wednesday. That was Wednesday.
Wednesday.
That was Wednesday because I did Laguna, then ORP, and then the Ridge, and the car's never been out of the trailer. It just stayed in the trailer. I'm like, I don't even need to unbox this sucker. Just leave it tied down, strapped down, and drive it. So went back to the track, and funny thing is that this was for the SCCA track night. I was looking at the weather, and it's supposed to rain. It was like earlier in the week, it was like 10% chance of rain. And as we got closer, it was like 57% chance of rain. And then I was watching the radar map, and you could see kind of stuff coming. I'm like, man, I got a lot of work to do anyway. I'm just going to cancel it. So I went to look at the policy, and the policy said you can cancel 24 hours the day before noon. So I'm like, oh, I'm within the time. I'm not within the time bracket. So it means I would lose my money. So I'm like, okay, if it's raining, I'm just going to go get practice on the track, because driving on the track wet can help you be a better driver, because you need to learn how to manage the braking and the steering, right?
I've driven that track many times wet. One of my favorite pictures of my car that Carl Noakes took, who's a photographer up there, Carl did, was in the rain.
Yep.
And it's got that red line from when you come out of turn 15 on the straightaway. It's a beautiful shot. Just the colors look great together. It's one of my favorite shots. It was in the rain at the Ridge.
So it's a good thing to do. I mean, preferably, you always have dry track days, but it makes you a better driver. It does, no doubt about it. So I'm like, okay, I'll go there. I'll focus on some corners that I need to work on that when I was, the last time I was there, like October of last year, I think is the last track day I did. So there's some areas like going into one, I need to work on not braking as early as I have been and carrying speed around one to get me up in two. So I was going to work on that. And then the carousel, so I need to work on that, try different ways around it. So I'm like, okay, I'll go there. Get there, show up. There's like nobody there. When I first pulled in, there's actually a lot of vehicles. I'm like, oh crap, it's packed. But as I pull through the gate, I'm like, oh, all those vehicles are over in the that skid area that they've got. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not as bad. And so I come through the gate, and the lady's like, are you here for the track day? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, just be careful. There's a lot of activity going on the property, not on the track, but around the property. So I'm like, oh, okay. And sure enough, I don't even know what it was. Some off-road SUV comes flying across where you're entering the track, comes flying across there and goes off into the far right, all the grass. They built like some kind of a track, off-road track. Like there was hills that went up and down and turns. And yeah, so they had vehicles out there doing off-road stuff. So I don't know if it was for a manufacturer or what, but they had vehicles flying all around there. So, I kind of make my way through that, and I go over to where you park for the track over by the garages, and there's like nobody there. There was a Mustang group was there.
Always going to have a Mustang group at a track day.
There was like 8 of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. And I'm like,
Mustangs and Porsches. Always.
There was only a couple. Normally, yeah, you see a ton of Porsches, but there was only like 2 or 3 Porsches, maybe. A lot of Mustangs. I'm like, man, there's nobody here. And I got there about 3:00. You need to be there by 4. I think was
Oh,
the
you got there early.
advanced. What's that?
You got there early then.
Yeah, I got there a little bit early, but I expected more people. So anyway, I park, unload the car. David pulled up, parked beside me, David in the Ferrari. So I went over to talk to him about his new Porsche. So we chatted about
I
that.
can't wait to go for a ride in that thing.
Oh man, I think yeah, he's
Turbo S's are fast.
he said he'll probably have it out at the track in a bit. He wants to get used to it and break it in, and yeah, he's looking forward to it. So anyway, get the car out, get it prepped, and then yes, people came over to give me a hard time about the the protection on my car.
Your PPF.
Oh my God. Yeah, people give me a hard time. But so I get everything set up and I'm like, man, there's like nobody here yet. 4:00 comes, we go do the meeting, and it's advanced intermediate together for the briefing. So there's a good amount of people. There's like 20 or so people, maybe 25 people. So not too bad. I'm like, okay, it's not like 20. Normally we have like 20, 25 drivers, maybe 15 per. So I'm like, okay, this is not bad. So then we separate out and they do parade laps, I think, for the novice class. Mm-hmm. And then we're up first in the advanced group. So I go out there. I'm like second. I think I'm second line. There's a Camaro out there. Not a 1LE, but just a Camaro. Guy was fast. He was a good driver. He was out there, and then David was behind me, and then there's a good guy driving a Miata, driving well, and then a couple other cars. So we get out there. I'm chasing the Camaro. It was great because there's only like 8 cars in our group. They staggered us. Normally they just let you go.
Yeah.
They held us and let the first car go all the way under the bridge, and then they let the next car go.
So if you caught them, it's because you caught them.
Right.
You caught them because you're good driving, or their
Exactly.
lack of skill, potentially.
It was wonderful. It was probably maybe 5. I think I said 3 or 4, but I think it's more like 5 laps before we actually caught the end of the group, the slower advanced people. And there was like 4 people that we passed. I kept my spacing with the other guy, and I started to close in on the Camaro a bit, but then I would just back off. I'm like, I don't want to close in. I want to keep my distance so I can focus on my lines. And it was great. So I did that, and then we went up for the next session. Again, wonderful, big spacing, no issues. And then dark clouds were starting to come in, and there's just a hint of like light mist. For the last session, I want to take it easy. I don't want to push it too hard. Because normally by the last session, I want to try to send it because I'm going to be packing up. But I don't want to chance it. So I kind of took it easy. But the sun came out. It was actually blinding in your eyes. I had to have the sunshade down. And it worked. It was a great session. So notched another track day. Although my brakes need to be replaced now. And my tires, I need to get them on the lift and take a look. They feel like when I was pushing it on that last session, the car was starting to slide. Mm-hmm. So I need to check the tires, but I've done a lot of track. I think I've got 6 track sessions on that now.
Tires?
On those tires.
Yeah, those things are probably hurting.
It's due, and then the pads are all the way down to the squill mark. So
Definitely do.
Definitely I need to do that. But yeah, so that was good. Packed up, headed home, and then it started pouring on the way home. So it was great. It was beautiful the whole day down there. And then it was pouring rain on the way back. So
we talk about turn 1. So I worked on turn 1. This is actually last year at the Cadillac Blackwing event.
Yeah.
We brought your Nissan.
The what?
Nothing. You didn't bring anything. So Paul, one of the instructors, I was telling him I'm struggling with being consistent in turn 1. He said, you're probably getting to the braking zones and braking as pretty normal. I mean, yeah. He said, so your car's a little bit heavier. Like a Miata can come through the thing at 100 miles an hour.
No
without
kidding,
problem.
man.
He said, what I would think you need to do is brake sooner than like a full cone length, or full length rather. The distances between each cones. Take that length, add one more, like there's a 4th cone. I want you to brake there, brake hard there, get the car slowed down just a little bit, steer, and then I want you to steer the car and aim it toward the apex, and then I want you to accelerate through the apex. Braking slower or braking sooner, getting it pointed correctly, and then accelerating. The very first time I did it, was 102 miles an hour on that. Now, that is fast because you know as well as I do, 200 feet away is turn 2.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm nailing the brakes. And these brakes obviously are amazing. And then just going right into the turns. But that thing, and I started doing that every time. And I decided not to go over 100. That's just too much. I have to drive this thing home. And that worked out well for me. And I looked at my time and I dropped a second just there. Because I wasn't over braking and then turning in at partial throttle.
Yep.
I braked sooner, got my angle, and throttled up again, almost full throttle through the turn.
So I was talking with David because David was trying to, he wants to bring his times down. Man, on the straightaways, that guy, he's flying like 163.
160 something, yeah.
I think last year he told me he was like 165, but I think he was hitting like 163. So he's flying down that straightaway. And I think he said he's taking that first turn around 111. I think is what he told me, around 111.
Ooh.
I'm not hitting that at 111.
No. No. Mm-mm.
Could I? Sure. I don't feel confident enough to do that because, like you said, very shortly in your face is turn 2 that you have to make a left-hand turn.
And you're taking turn 2 you start maybe taking it at 65.
Yeah.
As you're slowing down a little bit until you get straight again, and then you can throttle up at the apex. But man, no. I'm not doing that at 111.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable. But I went back and looked at my video. What I was doing previously, I think I was hitting the brakes around the blue cone, which is before the brake zone. I don't know what the blue cone is for. I don't remember what the blue cone's for. No. Maybe it's into the passing zone for people that have to do
that's what it is.
The intermediate class.
Yep.
And so I think I was hitting my brake there. And so this time I was being conscious, don't hit my brake until I get to the braking zone. There's no reason to hit it earlier. But when I was watching video, what I was doing now, and I didn't realize this until I watched the video, I let off the gas. So I'm like I'm full throttle all the way to the blue cone. Then I've let off the throttle.
Coasting.
You're coasting a bit, right? Because I let off the throttle. And then when I get to the braking zone, I apply the brake hard or medium, not hard. I do medium and then I make the turn. And I'm hitting turn 1 around 92 is what I'm doing every time consistently. But I'm like, the distance from the blue cone to the braking zone is probably 40, 50 feet. So I'm slowing down during that time period where I really need to be on the gas still and then hitting the brake harder. You're right. I probably am losing at least half a second, maybe less, but I'm going to say at least half a second just doing that one. So I've got to continue working on turn 1. Got to keep working on it.
Yep, me too.
But it's fun. It's all good.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
What questions you got for us today? Your
Oh,
turn.
man. So
boy.
Fun stuff. Have a couple of odd. They don't really necessarily go together, but I've got some interesting topics for us to talk about today.
All right.
First one is around denibbing.
Around what?
Do you know denibbing?
Denibbing.
Yeah. Do you know
the tires pulling
Yeah.
off? Yeah. Okay.
So what are your thoughts around denibbing?
I've never denibbed. That's such a random question. I've never denibbed. It sounds so dirty when you say it that way too. That's not the intent, but have you denibbed? It's not my thing. I'm not into that, you know. You do you.
You do you.
You do you, man. I don't judge you. I've never denibbed before. I don't. Yeah.
So
why do you ask the question?
I asked the question because there's a guy, YouTube. He owns Obsessed Garage, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I like about Matt. A lot of his philosophy and stuff. And so when I said denibbing, the people that knew of Matt, you guys already knew exactly what I was talking about because he's a fanatic about denibbing.
Really?
So he'll get new tires, put those, put them up on the rolling. What do you call that thing? I've got one too. I don't know what you call it. You put the tire on it when I'm putting ceramic on the wheels, and it spins the tire. Yeah. Anyway, he puts it on that, and he goes around and he denibs all the tire.
Why?
I think it's because of aesthetics, right? Because you have all those little long rubber pieces sticking out, and so goes and snips all those things off.
That's a level of OCD.
Yeah, it is
next level. But then again, I saw his build that he did with Adam LZ.
Yeah.
And Colette.
Yeah.
They're building that house.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Amazing.
So I can see that level of OCD on the tires, I can see it in the work that he did because it was freaking spectacular.
Yeah, if you watch after that, he did a big build down in California on a garage barn that they did. Just, I don't know how much it was, next level, like over the top. I never forgot. I remember the first time I watched the video and he talked about denibbing, I had the same, I didn't even know what it was. My first reaction was, that is denibbing. And then he talks about it, sporadically through his videos or podcasts. So I went outside and I'm like, would I denib the tires? So I went and looked at all my tires. All my tires have got the little rubber things. Yeah. So I was putting ceramic coating on one of the wheels. And I'm like, do you know how long it would take me to denib all of these on one tire? And I've got, 20 tires to do that on?
Nope.
I couldn't do it.
Nope.
I couldn't do it.
Nope, I couldn't.
And I've never
that's what
noticed.
You're paying an employee for.
Well, what's funny though is that now when I go look at tires, I blame him because the first thing I look at, I'm like, are they denibbed?
You know what? You know how you denib a tire? Drive it.
Drive
the car. Put the tire on the car and drive it.
But a lot of those things are never going to
get
get cut off unless you're like scraping your tire because they're on the
track. Well, for guys like you and I who track our cars, they're going to come off.
Yeah,
they're going to be melted into the groove.
Yeah,
at
they're
some
going to be.
Point, but whatever.
That's true.
I don't care.
Man, it was just.
That is a random question.
It is. It's something I've always wanted to ask other people, and I'm like, I have the opportunity now to talk about a topic, and I want to bring up denibbing.
So for those of you listening, when you go to the bar next time or over dinner, ask your friends about denibbing and just stare at them.
Oh man.
See if they even know what it means.
All right, I've got two things. One is about driving in the military.
Okay.
We both have experience with this.
Uh-huh.
I've got two stories about driving in the military.
Driving or wrecking in the military? Or both?
Both.
Okay.
I have a story. I have a story for each.
Okay.
So.
Well, I know you got a story for wrecking. Episode 1, you told us about wrecking. You're prone to it, so I'm sure that didn't stop in the Army.
Thanks, Gene.
No problem, buddy.
So the first one was I was in college. I was in ROTC and I was in National Guard. You get kind of paired up with a second lieutenant, kind of learning the ways, of what a lieutenant does. And so we're going on. This is in Alabama. We're going on an exercise, I think, to Camp Shelby, Mississippi. I forgot the duration. I could have looked it up, but it's kind of a long drive. I don't know. It's hours. It's not like down the road. It's hours of a drive. Captain, I want to say his name was Captain Cottles. That might not be right, but
Captain Cottles?
I think it was Captain
man.
Cottles. I'm pretty sure.
The amount of fun we'd have with that.
I didn't think of it back then like that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it was Captain Cottles. I should see if he's still around. But I remember Captain Cottles came out, and we're all loading up, right? We're in deuce and a halves. I don't know if we had 5 tons, but maybe 5 tons, but definitely deuce. Cup V's back then.
Yeah, people don't know about a Cup V.
Yeah, people don't know Cup V's. Old timers, they know Cup V's. I don't think we had Humvees though. I think it was Cup V's, deuces, 5 tons. That's what we had. So we're all loading up. Everything's packed. Now I am in a signal unit, a bunch of heavy equipment and stuff. So we get packed up, and Captain Cottles comes out and said, "Does any of you know how to drive?" I was the only.
It's a nebulous question. Of course, you know how to drive.
Well, yeah, he might have phrased it slightly different, but it was kind of a leading question, right? Well, of course, me and I was there with all the other younger NCOs, or it's probably all the E1 through E4s, because we did all the. Even though I was attached to a second Louis, I was with all the troops, right? I was with doing all the loading and all the prep. Captain said, "Hey, anybody can drive?" We raised our hand, and they said, "Who can drive a stick?" I'm like, I think I might have been the only one that raised my hand. Maybe there was another one.
You know better than to volunteer in the military.
But so I raised my hand, not thinking, right? I'm not thinking.
Correct.
Maybe I was, but it was probably about the Cup V, right? So Captain Cottles was like, great. We need a driver for the Deuce. And I'm like, the Deuce? Oh my gosh. I'm like, sorry, I don't have my military driver's license. Because in the military, you also have to have a military license, not just a civilian. Mm-hmm. Different set of tests that you have to go through. Captain Scottles is like, don't worry about that. You'll earn it on your drive.
That's fine. It's OJT, man. OJT.
I know it. I'm like, oh
man.
why did I raise my hand? So I'm the first drive. The guy that was with me in the passenger seat, he wasn't driving first. I was driving first. I get in the Deuce. You've probably driven a Deuce.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'm trying to get that sucker into gear, cranking and just grinding the gears.
No power steering.
No power steering.
Huge wheel, no power steering.
I am just like trying to
forearms like Popeye.
Dude, I'm like, at that age, I think I was probably 19 or 20 at that age, trying to turn this massive truck as a 19-year-old. Mm-hmm. We're trying to pull out of the motor pool. I almost ran over the stop sign as you come out to make a left-hand turn because I could not get that sucker turned. Uh-huh. And I think
and a heavy clutch.
Oh, super heavy.
Pops.
Super heavy.
Yeah.
I think my mirror brushed against the stop sign. I was that close. I literally almost ran off. So we get on the road and we get to wherever the halfway point, and then the other guy takes over. I have never been more scared. Well, I take it back. I think one of my other stories, I was more scared. It was in a snowstorm. That was one of the top 2 times I've been so scared in my life because I'm driving this massive piece of equipment, big machine, never driven a machine like that before, heavy clutch, heavy turning of the wheel. I mean, I'm a little scrawny kid. Oh my gosh. Pucker factor through the roof the entire time there. Because you have to get on the interstate, right? When you're going long distance, you're on the interstate. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, that was, I learned that day. I mean, I knew going through basic before that you don't ever volunteer for anything. I wasn't thinking that day about, hey, can anybody drive? Why would he be asking, could anybody drive a stick? I didn't even think about it. I never volunteered to drive again. But I tell you this, when I got back, I earned my military driver's license.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
So I could check that. I could check that one off the box. Okay, that's the first one. The other one this is when I was actually active duty. Oh gosh, we're at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Have you been there before?
No.
Okay. Really cool place. I mean, it's literally white sand, beautiful sand. So we're deployed there for I forget how long. I've got some hilarious stories about my platoon sergeant. I got to tell this story because it's not about driving, but it's so funny. I won't say his name, but I remember it. So we're in the sand dunes, and so I think we're sleeping in GP mediums. Mm-hmm. I think, and so everybody had cots. Right, we had cots. They had been deployed there before, so they all brought plywood, like 4x8 sheets of plywood that would go underneath your cot to keep your cot from sinking in the sand.
Yep.
Super smart. They handed out, plywood to everybody, put your cot on. Platoon sergeant, they wanted to play a prank on this guy. So what they did, we were there for like 3 or 4 weeks. So what they did every day when they were out doing whatever, different missions, the people that were still back in camp would move all of his stuff, his cot and his equipment, 4x8 sheet of plywood, move all that, dig down about half an inch, just scrape off the top layer of sand, put the 4x8 sheet plywood, put it all bunked back together. He'd come in. When you do that over time, you can slowly start to see that when you lay in the cot and you look to your side, that you're a little bit lower
than everyone else, right?
But if you do it all at once, then you knew something happened. But they did it just, like I said, half an inch or less every day. But within, a week, you're talking like an inch or two that you're going to be below the guy in your cot. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I remember he said, man, why am I getting lower than you guys? Because everybody else is at the same height, only him. And the head maintenance mechanic, he's like, oh, platoon sergeant, you just must be in a soft area of the sand. And so he's like, oh, yeah, okay. He didn't do anything. He just left it. They continued for another week. By the time we left, he was at least an entire foot below the other guys. He would lay in the cot and look over, and he was looking under everybody else. It was so funny, and he never figured it out. He honestly,
and y'all never told? Y'all
never told him.
Good.
Never told him. He thought he was in a soft area of the sand that sunk.
So here's the funny part about that. To this day, he's telling the story the other way.
I know, the other way.
The other way. Man, it's just so weird. I don't know, man. I was just, the geological foundation was really low there. And I was like a foot low, but I was a good sergeant, man. I make sure my team, he's telling a story where he's a superhero
Oh,
in this.
my gosh.
You know he is.
That is hilarious. He probably told that story like that. Oh, my gosh.
Well, I realized that a long time ago. I have a lot of stories. Some this channel will never hear. Probably should never hear. Will never hear. But there's somebody else who's on the other side of my story.
Yep. I never thought of that.
And I have. I wonder when I tell my stories, one of my friends would tell the story from their point of view. Yeah, Gene did this. He thinks he did this, but he really did this.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty
two
funny.
Sides.
Okay, back to the story. So we're deployed there, and I had a driver. I'm not allowed to drive because I have a driver.
I've seen you driving the track. I can see why you didn't.
Yeah, well, military rules. So
Yep.
I have a driver. Kind of at this point, I'm in a Humvee. You know, I'm in active duty, so we have Humvees.
Yep.
When you're going out there, it's man, going through the dunes is just super awesome. In the Humvee, like really nice. We're out there. I think we're scouting for something. I forgot. I don't remember why we were out there, but we're out there scouting for something. We're just out in the middle of nowhere. And so I asked my driver, I won't say his name, protect the innocent. I asked my driver, hey, driver, it says weird not to say his name. Hey, let's swap. I want to drive. And he's like, oh, can you do that? I'm like, yeah, it's my vehicle. And he's like,
You're the CO.
okay. So we swap and he gets in the drive. I am like barreling through the dunes, man. Just flying, just all kind of stuff, right? We're out there for, I don't know, half an hour, I don't remember the time frame. We're just blasting, having a blast until we weren't.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so
What'd you break?
I broke the tie rod.
So you went over a dune too hard, came down the wrong angle, broke the tire. Yeah,
Yep.
That's exactly what happens.
So I'm like, oh, crap. You know, the wheels kind of wonked, get out, and I'm like, oh, crud. So he's like, don't worry about it. You know, we'll get it fixed. He's like, but you better not drive back, which is true. I probably shouldn't. Which is awesome, though. That guy, super awesome guy. We connected for a while, even after he wasn't my driver. I went to a different unit. We still stayed connected. He was a really good guy. But he took the vehicle back, and they didn't ask what happened, but they just made the assumption. But he didn't get in trouble, because if something would have happened, like if first sergeant or somebody had to come down, then I'm gonna own it. I wasn't trying to hide it, but it's like, hey, let's not make it known, right? So
Well, that'd be akin to volunteering.
true. Look at that. That's true. I learned.
Yes, you learned.
I learned,
That's
not
what's
realizing it. I wasn't worried about it because it's my vehicle and
Yeah.
my unit. But I did feel bad because then my staff, my soldiers had to fix it. But that thing was we had so much fun just blasting out there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one other thing. We're coming back on the road. I didn't know this because I don't live in an area where there's like poisonous type snakes. There were snakes laying on the road. I thought that they had gotten run over, right? They're crossing the road and they had been run over. Mm-hmm. Well, no, that's not what the snakes were doing. The snakes were out there sunning.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. I'm not
Cold-blooded.
I
You need
don't
the
come
sun.
from I don't see snakes out here. Like we might have a little garter snake, but I don't see really snakes out. I didn't know that they're out sunning. So I stopped and opened the door.
Oh, my God.
Rattlesnake struck at me. I about crap my pants. I was scared to death. Yep. Thankfully, we were high enough, off the ground when I opened the door. He struck, but didn't get into the vehicle. I was like, And so I called my wife. She was also military. And I'm like, you won't believe what happened. She's like, idiot, they're sunning. I'm like, I didn't know.
See Cheryl doing that. I can see her voice saying that.
Yep.
I got it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So those are my
God.
those are my two military driving stories that
Yeah.
pretty fun.
So I was a mechanic in the military, 63 whiskey, heavy wheel vehicle mechanic. So 6 months or plus in training in Edgewood, Maryland, and then I went to Germany. I loved it. I mean, I drove everything, right? Deuce and a half, 5 tons, Cut Vs, Humvees. There was the Dodge Cut V version. I can't think of the name of that one, but it's similar to the Chevrolet Cut V. We actually have a Dodge one as well.
I don't remember that one.
Uh-huh. It was really old. I at one point I became I was able to drive the semis, the 915, 916s, 918s, all those series of semis. We got really good at taking out the transmissions. We could take out a transmission by lunch, go to lunch, put the new one back in, and have it tested before we sent the motor pool for on the Autobahn. So we got good at it, like cab off, like really good. So we were the second squad. We were actually really good. We were with Fifth Maintenance Company at the time, which has now been shut down. Which is like the 4th time it's been shut down, and it may get reactivated one day. Hopefully never. No, because that means war kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that's why I say that. Second squad was actually really good. We actually had some good people. My buddy Brian, Kelly. We're all really good at what we did. So they said, hey, they volunteered us for some duty one day. And then the commander said, hey, I want you guys to drive up to this thing for the next week. So we went to this other base in Germany, probably an hour away. He said, your PT will be done while you're there, which was just drive there. They said, what we want you to do, we have a bunch of APCs, these small armored personnel carriers, right? And they're in this one area over here. We want you to move them over here. And then we want you to wash them and then set them over here. And that'll be a week's worth of duty. And your PT is the physical labor of washing the vehicles with a pressure washer. So whatever. We're like, cool. So we go and do this. Now, Kelly's a drag racer. I like to drag race. My buddy Brian as well. So we go get these things. Once they teach us how to drive them, some of them had the steering wheel, some of them had the yokes, right?
Oh my gosh.
Right. So we decided at some point, well, I'm the highest ranking guy there as a Spec 4. So I'm like, we're going to have some fun. There's no one on this base but us. We're moving these things. We're drag racing. So we ended up drag racing APCs the entire way down.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
probably like an eighth of a mile, maybe a little, maybe between an eighth of a mile and a quarter mile. But it was so fun. We had so much go. The guy, the flagger, our buddy. And sometimes like they didn't really work very well. So you'd go forward, 20 feet and the thing would start turning and you have to really crank on the yokes to pull them back. And then, so
Are you on dirt or pavement?
pavement.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So we had so much fun on that duty. We made that duty last as long as we could. We made those vehicles pristine because for a week we drag raced APCs out there on this little small base. I don't even know, it's like 45 minutes or an hour and 40. It was a ways away from Vogelway where we were, or Ryan Ordnance Barracks where I lived. So we had a lot of fun with those APCs. And every time we get together, Brian, Kelly, and I, we still talk about it. It was drag racing APCs, man. That was a good time.
So I'll tell you an APC story.
All right.
This had to be in IOBC, Infantry Officer Basic Course. When I started my career, I started out infantry and then I transitioned to a different branch. IOBC, you have to get sleep when you can get sleep because you're constantly on either patrol or some type of exercise or something, right? So you just get sleep when you can get it. And I have a picture. I still have a picture to this day. We're in the back of an APC. We're going on some exercise. And APCs, when you're over rough terrain, those things just beat you to snot.
Oh, man.
Because there's no suspension.
No.
The body is just all still. And so you sit on these little tiny, like flip seats. The cushion's maybe like an inch, if that. So and it's super hot, right? There's no
they've been
AC.
deteriorated since Nam, by the way.
Yes, I know. And so brutally hot. You're in full battle rattle. Close up the back of that thing, and you're just sweating like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I must have fallen asleep en route to wherever we're going. We get to the destination. They lower the back down. I am knocked out. Not from getting my head knocked. I was sound asleep, and they're literally shaking to wake me up. I'm like, how in the world can you sleep through that brutal ride of an APC? But man, I was out, just out cold.
So is that what's ruined you for my back of a 28-foot trailer snoring fest at a track? You can stand that, but you can't stand my snoring in the back of a trailer at the track.
Oh man, I have a picture of that. Someone took a picture of me because they couldn't wake me up right away. And they're
Yeah.
like, "Who in the world can sleep through that?" And I'm like, "Dude, man, you
sleep when you can.
You sleep when you can." I mean, oh my gosh.
So my last story, I mean, I've got tons of them, but this one. So, as mechanics, we got to do all kinds of fun stuff. Sometimes not so fun. We got this one duty that took us about 3 months to do. We actually left Rhine Ordnance Barracks in Kaiserslautern, where I lived, and we went out to a place called Germersheim. Germersheim, if you think of it as it's like a junkyard. It's a military depot. These vehicles go there, and as mechanics, we would drive out there, and we're like, I can't wait 6 months to get a part that I need for this vehicle, so we just go take it off these. So, and we were the largest maintenance company in Europe, but we weren't the only one. So a lot of people did that. So we all go out there as a company, like our whole company goes there, and their goal was the company that was there previously was supposed to have moved all the vehicles into rows, made it look nice and neat, military style.
Yep.
But
That's
also
right, Chris.
5 tons next to each other, deuce and a halves next to each other, cut V's next to each other, Humvees, all the semis. But the group that did it before us, they just did a crap job. So the battalion moved them out and brought us in, and we did it right. I mean, we had a good game plan. We knew what we were doing. We lived on site, and we had a lot of fun. But we would go out there and we're like, okay, now we're moving all these vehicles to this area over here. So we'd have to figure out, it was also good mechanicking, figure out what's going on. Why can't the vehicle start? That's right, it's a new word, mechanicking. I made it up. So you have to figure out why isn't the vehicle starting? Is it the batteries? Have they been unhooked? You got to put them back in series or parallel. Does it need fuel, right? So we're moving all these vehicles around, and sometimes you can't move it around. So we had this device called the John Holmes device. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you why, but it was essentially it was almost like a wrecker crane that connected to the fifth wheel of a Bobcat, a 5-ton Bobcat, and it would actually lift the vehicle up. So it's kind of like the back of my Hemet wrecker,
Yep.
but on the back of a semi piece. And we used that to drive everything around, and it had a huge bumper in the front. By the end of our time there, rather, the bumper was flat on both sides because we used that to push vehicles in less where we couldn't move them. But my buddy Sergio, we were trying to start up a 915, right? It's a big old semi. It took a while to get it started. We had to clean out the injectors and stuff, and just because we were trying to move as many by driving them, because some of them you just couldn't get out of the way. So we got it started. Beautiful. So I'm behind him in the Bobcat, and he pulls in and just couldn't get the right angle. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I got you. Stay right there. And I put the front bumper into the back two wheels and just drove it, pushed it to the side, and got it straight. So then he pulls up, gets it in line, and I had backed away, and I pulled maybe 10 car lengths away. And as he's getting out of the vehicle, he steps down. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you, the critical point was we never got oil pressure out of the vehicle. Couldn't get oil pressure to come up. Didn't know why. Come to find out why. There was no oil in the vehicle. So as soon as he steps out and puts one foot on the ground, so much back pressure in the crankcase, it exploded and shot thick, quarter-inch thick shards of metal went everywhere because that's what the oil pan was made of. This huge, thick material. It went everywhere. It had a little bit of a fireball, like very quick one. I saw this short 5'2", my boy Sergio Batetta. He hauled rear end. It was like somebody shot at him. He was looking for Charlie, and he just took off running. But he jumped up in the air and landed, and then took off running. And we were dying laughing. Like our first thought was to laugh at him, not to go to make sure he was okay. Like,
I know,
he wasn't on fire.
that
There's
came
shrapnel.
after.
Yeah, there's a shrapnel.
We'll check
in
on
his
you
rear
later.
end. Hey man, let me check your butt. You're good to go. But seeing this man take off running, I've never seen him run as fast as he ran before. And the CO just happened to be there and watch us do this. I was saying, thank goodness the first sergeant wasn't there. because he would have lost it. He was, they called him the sheriff for a reason. He was a guy that was tough but fair. And actually, I learned a lot of leadership from him, which is great. But he would run to formation. He would run to formation for PT from where he lived, 8 clicks away or so. He'd smoke us for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever he was going to do, and he would run forever. Then he would run back, and he would be the first person in formation, looking perfectly, perfectly pristine, ready
as
to
a
go.
good first sergeant should be. Yeah.
He was ready to. I have no doubt the man made sergeant major at some point. That's just how squared away this guy was. But if he was there, that would not have been so funny. He wouldn't have. He would have waited till the CO left, and then he would have let us have it. So, yeah, he just happened to not be there. But yeah, that was a pretty funny day. That was a good tour of duty, man. I loved it.
How much mess was there to clean up?
Well, luckily there's no oil because there's no oil in the engine. So it just shards of metal. Just shards of metal. But we did clean up as much as we could. Chucked them in the front floorboard and so have at it.
Oh, that I guess because you're not trying to do any repair there.
No. Eventually the goal was, I had heard, eventually those vehicles would be destroyed, crushed, and or sent back to the U.S., which is incredibly expensive
why in
to
the
do
world
that.
would you?
So I don't know if they ever were. It's just, people like us, we'd go there, and I drove a Hammett Wrecker. So I wanted some lights, like sirens on. So I found an ambulance one day because I was taking a vehicle there. So while I was there, I found an ambulance, took off the lights there, put it on my vehicle, drilled the holes through the top of it, rewired it. Then I had lights. Why? I wanted them.
So when you left the military, could you have got a CDL when you came out?
Yeah, I had a Class A, so I could have easily just gone and tested for it. Because he had to learn how to drive the vehicles so you could get them tested, and we all had to do it. So we would test on the Autobahn without a trailer, and then with a trailer, then with a trailer with a load. And then we did all that. We did that in a day.
I wish I had a CDL. I don't want to go through the effort now. There's just no reason, no point in having it. But oh man, that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
that's all I've got.
That's good.
We'll save the rest for next time.
I do like putting in the military stories though, because I love the military service. So I have lots of military stories. Most of them involve cars.
You probably have a lot more, given that you're MOS. I don't have near as many, so yeah, you definitely pepper those in.
I'll leave this. I once did 150 miles an hour on the Autobahn in a Mustang LX with my buddy Brian as we were going from one base to the next, and I'll tell you why at a later date.
Okay, with that, I guess we'll end it. Talk to you next time. Cheers.